Hello, everybody. It's Bill from the Sit Rep Podcast, and we're coming to you from a pre-recorded location.
The future or the past, actually.
We are filming live before an artificial audience. Damn AI. So we are in the studio, and this show has been pre-recorded, so we can bring you some interesting information about a little island in the Pacific that I thought about vacationing, but doesn't sound like it's a very fun place. We'll talk about that and some hobbying and some other news and tidbits, and we will do that in 3, 2, 1. Hey, everybody, we're back. And it is time for our Sit Rep Podcast show. And joining us today, I got my glasses on, I can't see it far away, is Marty.
Slancha.
Uncle Sideburns, as we like to call him.
I think they almost
jealousy
put their
is-
own name at this point.
All right.
Jealousy does not become you.
Do they have their own zip code?
No, but they do have their names.
There you go.
Love and Thunder.
Love and Thunder. Yeah, I think your wife might disagree with that one. But okay. Anyway, moving on. Hey, Chris, what's going on?
Hey, how y'all doing?
At least your beard connects.
No love or thunder for him, though.
Yeah.
And and the man of the hour. There's some anniversary going around for some tropical destination. Jim is going to talk about it. He's promoting it on his T-shirt. He's doing a couple video presentations. We'll be talking about that tomorrow. Hey, Jim, how you doing, buddy?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So you might notice that we're in a little bit different format. Hold on a minute. All right.
Dear Lord,
That's
he's
the only problem with those.
discombobulated.
Those are the only problem with those kind of glasses. I have to have the magnetic ones, that come together because I am terrible about misplacing my glasses
All the damn time.
all the damn time. So
Get
anyway,
him one of those grandma chains.
Yeah. Well, is there with you?
oh yeah. Hey, who is that?
Hey, everybody, it's Dawn.
Hi, everyone. It's Jesse.
So Jesse is the
Yay.
eldest of the clan of the Chillins. There are 5 of them in total. Jesse being the
Here's
eldest.
a story. Wait, sorry.
We're not that far out. All right. Anyways.
You're only off by 1.
True. I think.
Oh, we're off by way more than that.
So anyway.
Checks out.
So this is a Friday night edition of recording. So usually Friday nights it tends to be adult beverages brought out. Warn your children, guard your wives, girlfriends, and we'll go from there. So I see different kinds of adult beverages going out. So there might be some Dark Age talk. Maybe we might have some Dark Age talk. Guinness. So and some World War II conversation. And we have some news. Can I start off with some big news that's non-relevant to this channel, but it is relevant to YouTube?
You moving again?
No. Fuck that. All right, here is the big news that I saw this week. Matt from Demolition Ranch is quitting YouTube.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Holy shit.
That's a combination of things, I think.
Yeah.
One, he's kind of played out on it.
Yeah.
But 2, he's had some very scary incidents of people with his family.
Yeah.
Which is why, like a year ago, he took his wife and kids off
Yeah.
off of YouTube, and Mare, his wife, literally quit working at Bunker Branding.
Yeah.
Because they get all these fucking freaks out there that are like coming up to him.
Right.
And I'm gonna venture he's probably doing all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Safe.
Yeah.
Safe bet.
Yeah.
Bill, I like to think of it as he's making space for you.
Is that what it is? Oh, well,
He's
I'd
like,
be happy. I'd
this
be happy to
Lomax
blow
guy's up
crap
and coming.
I'd be happy to blow shit up. So besides, we keep our creepy weird people real close to us, right, Chris?
Ooh.
Just kidding.
I
All
mean,
right.
2 states away, but yeah, close.
All things
But-
being relative.
Yeah, so that really kind of knocked the wind out of me. I was like, holy crap, he just hit 10 million subscribers, and I was like, wow, but I've been seeing a lot of that lately. A lot of people are quitting YouTube. I think they've gotten to the point where they just had enough, and then they want you to feel sorry for Mr. Beast, if you don't know who that is.
Oh, come on.
He's like the biggest YouTuber out there. He makes roughly 50 million a year off of YouTube,
Let's feel sad.
and he cries because he says he has less than $1 million in the bank.
Then that's his fault. I don't
Right.
know what to tell you.
Right. So
Do better.
right. Anyway, we have some exciting hobby news to talk about too. But how about we do some hobby ketchup? Not mustard, but ketchup. Dad joke. Oh,
Not on a Chicago dog, though.
that's
Yeah.
right. Oh my God! Did you see that? I'll put it into the video. So I sent Dawn this. It was a video off of Facebook about this guy in an "I Love New York" T-shirt going up to a hot dog stand in Chicago
Yep.
and asking for
Wiener
a hot
circle.
dog.
Wiener circle.
I was gonna wear my shirt tonight. I have a Wiener Circle shirt.
Yes.
Yeah. I actually
they'll
wore it last
destroy
Friday
that
when I
dude.
was cooking. I cooked for the staff at the hospital last Friday, and I wore it. And people didn't understand what it meant. They're like, "Is that perverted?" I'm like,
Were you channeling it?
I mean,
Well, I mean, if you watched it, and I showed them the video, and I'm laughing, and they're all like, they're gobsmacked, and I'm like,
oh, yeah. Go and get to the front of the line. Don't have your order ready.
right, or ask for ketchup. I dare you.
Oh.
Anyway, all right, let's talk about some hobbying.
Yeah,
Jesse, what kind of hobbying you been doing?
Magic the Gathering.
I thought for sure he was going to say rebuilding a hospital brick by brick.
That too. But no, I have very little time of hobbying.
Yeah.
I lost all of my Warhammer stuff, so I don't have that.
Oh,
and it's
wait.
way too expensive
Wait,
to get
but
back
wait.
into now.
But wait, we have a whole starter set here somewhere you and I can build. And we have Combat Patrol. So we can get into Jim's favorite sci-fi game.
I
However,
saw the eye roll.
He's being
No,
so
you didn't.
quiet tonight.
Chris and I would like to formally invite you to Age of Sigmar, the
Don't do
fantasy
it.
version.
Don't do it. That's weird.
No.
I
If he's
just
gonna play
bought.
the fantasy version, it's gonna be the old world.
I just bought a lot of Skaven that I really hope isn't a scam, because I got like $900 worth of stuff for like $150. So
Well, it depends.
I mean,
You might get ripped off.
I was gonna say I am literally, and I recognize that this is a gamble.
Uh-huh.
Gonna find out.
I mean,
Hey-
for
hey,
a,
pal- PayPal goods and services, so I can get my money back. But
There you go. All
no,
right.
for a small fee, I won't tell Donna.
well, it's my money. I literally took it out of my gun fund, which Steve Herner
Ooh.
thinks is my hobby fund, but guns are also a hobby. So yes is the answer.
Yeah.
All
Oh,
right.
by the way, I might need you to buy all my food at Adepticon now.
Chris,
Crack me up.
what you been doing, Chris?
Just D&D and a little bit of modeling.
Yeah, he's a hand model.
I would have gone with feet.
No,
No.
that's his OnlyFans.
Yeah.
He's gonna fund the page from now on.
Yep. Gonna get my 3 cents every 6 months.
All right. Okay. Well, good talk. Dawn?
In a shock to no one, I have not really done any hobbying.
That's not true.
I did some shopping. That counts as hobby, right?
What shopping?
My
Wait, what?
my game found.
Yes. She found Game Found.
Well, I've always known it was there,
Yeah.
but I backed Star Trek Ascendancy, the all in because I'm married to Bill, so I got to keep up with
Uh,
Bill.
I was gonna say he has
so-
set the standard.
It's all of the things and the second edition, and I'm very excited about it. It's going to be awesome.
So do you want to tell people what a Star Trek Ascendancy is for those who may not know?
Sure. So it is a board game. The second edition we have the original version of the game, which we really enjoyed, and it is a takes up a tremendous amount of table space, and you literally get to do exploration and fighting. And what I really like about it is that the universe literally expands as you explore in the game, which is what Star Trek really was all about anyway, right? So you start off with just a handful of planets, and then as you explore deeper into space, you keep adding planets and paths, and it's very cool.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. And this one will have everything, including the Borg, which I'm pretty excited about. So
Yes.
It's
Oh,
Nice.
almost on par with Twilight Imperium, as far as gameplay, as far as expansion, and it can take a long
yeah, it's
time.
not a quick game.
I was
But
gonna
it's
say,
fun.
Twilight Imperium's a pretty hefty game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not to that level per se, but when you start playing the bigger games and scenarios, and you have multiple players playing the Klingons and Romulans and Federation, etc., it can get pretty intense.
This
So,
game you literally can play with up to 12 people.
Yeah.
You can play solo
Damn.
party or up to 12 people. I was like, solo?
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to
So,
check that out.
Right.
but yeah. So
12
Yeah.
players. Who's gonna be player 12? Who are you
I
playing?
know,
Like,
right? Do you know how long that game would take? Jesus.
not only that, but I mean,
Yep.
okay, player 1's playing the Federation, player 2 the Klingons, player 3, player 4, player 12 is gonna be like some breakaway faction of the Bajorans or some
Yeah.
like
you're right.
weak
Yeah.
ass faction.
Yeah.
I'm the
So-
guest star. I'm crewman number 6. I'm the guy who gets killed in the first 5 minutes to prove this
I'm red
episode
shirt
is
number
serious.
5. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want a yellow shirt. Why is it got to be red?
It's like what was that? What was the movie with Tim Allen in it?
That's one I just
Space
quoted,
Quest.
Galaxy Quest.
Space
Yeah. Thank you.
It's-
Thank you,
yeah.
Jim.
I'm the guy that dies and
Yeah.
before the first commercial break to prove the situation is serious.
I knew it sounded familiar, but it was like, oh yeah. I'm a little slow on the uptake. I'm sorry.
Do you even have a last name? I know I have a last name. I'm sure you have a last name. Do I? Do I?
That was a great
Uh,
movie.
Man, I
Marty,
have not seen that
besides,
movie forever. I gotta
uh,
watch it now.
Besides spending on questionable purchases, what else have you been doing?
So last podcast, you were talking about games that you had and that you wanted to get into or wanted to do a playthrough or whatever, and you said Saga.
Yeah. Even Saga.
So I am currently 16 dudes deep into my Saga warband.
Wow.
you should
8
be
of
almost
them are-
done then.
8
How
of
big
them.
the warband?
My warband might be 32 guys.
Dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why
That's how
half-ass
big the
something
box is.
when you can whole ass something, Mr. All In? We just talked about
I
this.
know. Yeah, right. You shouldn't have to explain that to Bill. Don't
Right.
justify that.
Plus, when I was at Autumn Wars, I picked up. I don't know if you can see that it says that. So
Oh, nice.
this company makes all the measurers and markers.
For those who
and
are listening to this
whatnot.
podcast and not seeing it, what are you showing people?
So this is all the I have the Viking set, so it's got all the Viking dice included in it, and then it's got all your markers, and then all of your that's in there, all of your measuring tools as well in here.
Nice.
So it is a nice, neat little package. It's got room to
Nice
add stuff
package.
to it as well. That's right, your package. So
Very cool.
so
Who makes it?
so I'm about halfway. It's a 3D printed deal
Hmm.
that, oh man, I've got their card, and you'd think I would put it in there and then I would know, right? I feel bad now. So let me get back to you on that one.
Okay.
All right.
I've got their information still, but it's right at the beginning of my journey. I've never played it. I don't have any of the stuff for it, and it was like $30 for this kit, and I'm like, the dice are like $20 by themselves. Let's do this. So I've been working on that. I finished up my little set of terrain for from Death Ray Design, my little shanty town.
Yeah.
That is done. So I can do some moderns there. And I am also working through a bunch of Skaven stuff for Age of Sigmar because I'm that nerd. Oh, and I bought a Skaven lot off of Facebook Marketplace today, and it looks like it's like, I don't know, $900 worth of stuff, and I paid like $150. So let's see if I got scammed or not.
All right.
Might happen. I don't know.
A new
I don't know.
segment for the show. Did Marty get scammed?
Yeah, I mean, I paid
Scam or no
goods and
scam? That's the new
services,
segment.
so through PayPal, so I can get my money back.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that dude just happened to have been scrolling through Facebook. That popped up and literally had been on there for like 3 minutes, and I'm like, message sent.
Cool.
I mean, it's got a bunch of stuff in it, and I'm like, I need not all of it, but I need a lot of that stuff, and that's worth well more than he's asking. So we're gonna find out if this is legit or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. It's probably all 3D printed copies.
I'll take
Anyway.
it as long as it doesn't look like crap.
All right. What have I been doing?
You have
Recovering because you were sick as crap last time.
That's true.
For sure.
I actually assembled my paint table. Jesse, can you lean the other way?
I saw.
Can't see it. Damn it.
That's
All right.
the
Well,
hallway.
it's behind Jesse. I actually have all my paint set up now. I've been working on Captain Winters. I'm working on his skin tones. Oh, I tell you what, skin sucks. Just telling you right now, skin sucks. Okay, it sucks.
It doesn't suck.
It does.
It doesn't suck.
At this scale, it sucks, Marty.
No, it's just a larger canvas to paint on.
Okay.
That's all it is.
Okay.
The fact that you can't just slap some sort of crappy pink brown on there and then
Can you reach
sepia
that?
wash.
Truth.
It is more challenging. I mean, you actually have to paint it all.
Yeah, the lighting's kind of bad, but
I was gonna say this doesn't look like Captain Winters.
well, I've got a whole bunch of masking tape on him because I airbrushed his base, and then I'm starting building up the layers.
Well,
so
it's Captain Winters from the TV show, not
Yeah.
the actual Captain Winters.
yeah, it's
Okay.
it's what's his name?
I thought you were doing a bus.
Livingston, not Livingston. Ron Livingston's Spear or not Spears. Well, it's American. Now I'm getting them all.
Oh no.
Anyways, it's the other
that
guy,
one guy
the English
From
guy,
the show.
the guy that's actually English. But
Carrie
yes.
Elwes?
No,
that's-
that's Princess Bride.
Yes, it is.
Are we talking about the actor who actually plays
Yes.
Captain Winters?
Yes.
Damien
Yeah.
something.
Thank you, Damian Lewis.
Can't remember his last name. Okay.
Damian Lewis. Yep. Thank you. It just took a second. But anyways, it's a very beautiful model. And like I said, I feel so much pressure to get it right because it's based on a living guy. Well, he's no longer with us, but it's based on a living guy who's based on a non-living guy who was a hero. So that's a lot of pressure. So much pressure.
Well, and we're
Damien's
here
still
with the
alive,
whole-
right?
And my son was in the 506. So
Well, I was in red, not white curry. So we're the ones that crapped in the foxholes, not the guys that were.
I mean,
Hey,
It was
so-
important to make that difference. I don't know why, but my unit used
there's
to do
room
all-
for everybody in our army, sir. It's fine.
Yes.
that was a play. I don't know if you guys remember that from Band of Brothers when they took over the foxholes in the Battle of the Bulge and Bastogne. They were like, "Oh my God, they shit in our foxholes."
First
That would have been
battalion.
Jesse's unit.
One of those first battalion fucks took a shit in my foxhole.
I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
it's just a part of the rich history.
And
Something to be
a
proud
couple
of
months
there.
ago, I was at those foxholes.
Did you take a shit though?
There were too many people around. I was tempted. Have a nice big
Ah.
Eagle Globe and anchor right on that shit. There you go. That'll really piss somebody off.
Why's there an EGA in here? A big steaming pile of EGA.
Honestly,
What?
it probably wouldn't be as embarrassing as seeing another frickin' Tory somewhere, because
Oh my God.
tired of seeing them.
What?
Because that's
What
our,
is
like,
wrong with the
worst enemy.
Rakasans? Do they brainwash them during in processing?
Oh yeah, yeah. They're They're horribly brainwashed. It's
They will also
insane.
steal everything that is not nailed down, and then some stuff that is.
And
Yeah,
this
I
is
know.
coming from you.
What? You were
Yeah.
fragged out there, Chris.
Yeah.
Marty stole everything that wasn't nailed down.
I'm an MP.
It's
Who's
not
going to come after
stealing
me?
in the army. There's only one thief.
The
The
rest of us are
trying to get our shit back.
Exactly.
It's reallocating resources, repurposing.
Oh man, I mean those dudes, they were really good at going out and killing and breaking things, but when they came back in, I'm like, man, bro, you can't have that. It's not yours. Go take it back.
Oh, I
Well,
know.
it's just a truck. It's not your
first-
truck. They're going on mission.
The first entire month of my deployment, I had to go out and paint over all the frickin' Tories they spray painted everywhere, including the roof of a battalion talk on a
Oh, yeah.
metal roof.
Everywhere. I mean, you think you finally got them all. You finally find one place of indoor plumbing. You close the door, and on the back of the door is that damn Tory.
Exactly. Exactly where I found the last one.
Right.
So it's better, a lot of people, just decide to paint dick pics up there. So
All right.
But those are universal.
yeah. So.
Jim,
Yes.
what have you been up to, sir?
Keeping the channel going. To be honest, we did promise our viewers some actual modern wargaming content like we used to do back in the day. So we did some of the hill fights northwest of Quezon. This isn't the siege of Quezon. This is the hill fights that took place before that. So we're talking about. Alrighty then. And on that note, we're talking about the the hill fights. So April and May, Operation Prairie Ford, 1967. So we did those. Those were a pretty big hit. And then in order to make the anniversary, we went straight into Iwo Jima. So we've got one episode for Iwo Jima, went up last week. The other episode is coming out either very shortly or a short time ago, depending on when this episode goes out, because we're pre-recording this. So yeah, it's been that all. That's completely taken over my hobby. I finished up part 2 for Iwo Jima, I think about a week ago. So since then, I've just been catching up on sleep and trying to rebalance things, and then figure out what I'm going to do next. But yeah, it's been a tough February, to be honest. There's been a lot of late nights, but that was sort of a corner I had painted myself into. Number one, promising the community modern wargaming content, and at the same time, I forgot how short February was.
That's true.
And how fast 19 February was going to come up. So, yeah. But that's all done. Now we're just going to post the videos and watch the views roll in. So, again, please check out, for people who may be listening to this later, check out part 1 and upcoming part 2 of our Iwo Jima content, marking the 80th anniversary of Operation Detachment.
Yep. All right. So before we go into some more in-depth conversation about some facts about Iwo Jima that Jim has assembled for us, does anybody have news items they would like to discuss? Marty, news guy?
So I was gonna say, so I did not do any news for tonight because I've been blazing away, and normally Fridays is when I do my news roundup. So I've not rounded any up because I'm here instead.
Well, I have a little bit of news. So there was an announcement made by TT Combat. They are a company out of the UK. They took over Carnivale, which is a miniatures 32 millimeter, I believe. Weird horror genre based in Venice. It's a great game, and if you do the terrain right, it's beautiful. I had it for a while. Hey, does it surprise anybody? I had the starter sets and I never used them. Shock to no one. But because we knew the guy who actually created Carnivale, David. I can't remember. But he's Spanish, right? He was Spanish. Anyways,
it's David then. David.
But anyways, it was a great game. The mechanics are really awesome. You can jump canals and have gondolas and the piazzas and all that cool stuff. And it's got weird factions. You have like the Vatican has a faction, and there's the Carnivale people. So it's a really good game. Anyway, when he sold the rights to that, another game that got sold that's near and dear to our heart was Drop Zone and Drop Fleet Commander by originally it was by Hawk War Games. Dave, what is Dave's last name? So
Why do
bothered
you
me.
keep doing
It's like,
that?
I don't know. You're supposed to be the social person that knows everything. Anyway, another Dave, and I can't remember his name, but if you've been following Beast of War for any time, or if you watched our coverage of Salute, you may remember when he had his booth, Hawk War Games, and they had the huge 2-scale dropship. And in the
Cool.
dropship, the game is in 10 millimeter. So he had all his drop ships that come out of the mothership to scale. So the ship, it's huge. It was roughly 8 feet long, something like
It
that.
was awesome.
All lit up and stuff like that. Anyways, he did a Kickstarter for, was it Drop Fleet? I think it was Drop Fleet. Drop Zone Commander was the first one. That's the interplanetary combat on the ground. Drop Fleet was space combat. And as unfortunately happens to a lot of smaller companies when they go to Kickstarter is almost like the death knell. You overextend, and
It eats a lot of dudes up.
it does. So he sold to TT Combat, and so they've kept Drop Fleet, Drop Zone alive. Well, Dave has announced that they are going a different route. They're going to, I want to say it's Strike Force Commander. Don't quote me on it. I'll look it up, and I'll add it to this video, a little blurb. But it's, instead of going 10 mil, which is the scale for Drop Fleet, Drop Zone, he's going to 32 mil skirmish with the same stuff. So he's
That's a shame.
It's a shame.
Yeah.
Why is that a shame?
Everything's got to be bigger scale now.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see what happens with it. We'll see. So that was one of the big things that I have seen come out. Obviously, there's been some, the typical Warhammer stuff. The High Elves have come out for the old world. From modern side, I know Battlefront has raised their prices. Battlefront, Flames of War, that kind of stuff. Team Yankee, they're raising their prices effective next month by 10%. Don't quote me. It's something like that. A lot of places are doing it. And now with whatever's going on in the trade world, God only knows what prices and availability are going to be like.
I was just thinking, is now the time to be raising prices like that?
I don't think they have a choice, to be honest with you. So we're seeing a lot of consolidation of game companies that used to be independents going to bigger companies. Jim, I'm assuming I see you post on Beast of War on tabletop once in a while. Did you see their announcement? They readjusted their hours to their gaming center, and they only open certain hours for gaming versus just the store.
No,
I
I go on there to promote our content, and then that's kind of it.
But I don't know. It's just it's kind of tough. But and I'm looking around, and there's it's kind of the slow season. Things will start ramping up here in the next month because Adepticon's coming out.
Yep.
Somebody's showing something off at Adepticon that we were advised. Who was that? You said that was going to be demoing something at Adepticon. Oh, War Machine, right? Who's got War Machine now? Steamforge Games.
It's
Yeah. So
Steamforge is actually hosting a live session, kind of like the GW preview and Corvus Belli's kind of talk, and they've not done that before, so that was different.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with Guild Ball, since they've kind of come back into the arena with that.
Yep.
Some people are not so happy that Steamforge has actually come back into it. It's been fan driven since they abandoned it several years ago.
Yeah, I think that's it. Is they're like, no, this is ours now.
Yeah.
But there's other, but it may be yours, but you know who's not producing many minis for it? You.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Right.
So I think that there's a happy medium to be found there, I think.
Yeah. And I saw whispers that there's another modern rule set that's come out. I wish I could remember what it is now. It's a hypothetical. It's almost like the BOAR, right? Scenarios. British operational. What does BOAR stand for, Jim?
Army of the Rhine.
British Army.
Yeah,
British Army of the Rhine.
Okay. But they have scenarios where they go against the Russians breaking through up that way and some other things. I have been seeing a lot of hex and counter games coming out. A ton of hex and counter games. It is definitely making a resurgence.
Are we talking about Arrigo Valensoga's game? I think that's I think it's how you pronounce his name.
It might be. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Black Horse.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, he's been on our channel. He's done Valor and Victory with me in Afghanistan, and also the exact same thing, 1985 in Europe using Panzer Leader, modern day Panzer Leader.
Sounds like he needs to come back on the show. Right. Sounds like he needs to come back on the show and talk about Black Horse.
Yeah, let me make sure I'm getting all that right. Some real-time history here.
Right.
Not page, game. Yeah, Black Horse, first look, World War III.
Oh. So, yeah.
Yeah, Arrigo oh man, he's an Italian gentleman. He's been on the show twice, in fact. Bellasagna or Bellacagna. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing his name. He's been on our show at least twice. Extremely knowledgeable guy. In fact, I think he's got his doctorate or he's going for it. Definitely knows his shit, which is refreshing in the wargaming design community. To be honest.
All right. Don, do you have anything you want to add for news updates?
Not that I could think of.
Any updates on Phalanx Con?
No, have not heard anything new yet, but we are going to be reaching out to Chris, and maybe in this next month, I was thinking, since we're going to take over some of the content in March, maybe we'll do a one-off session just talking about Phalanx Con.
Cool.
Chris, get a feel for what he's got in the works and what we can expect from there. And maybe it'll prompt some folks to come forward and see if they want to run a tournament or something with them.
So, brand new gaming convention. This is the inaugural year, November of this year, and it's in Hopkinsville. I think it's Hopkinsville, right? Not too far from us, just up the road. And he's got hotels already set up, and the convention center. It looks like it's going to be a really nice thing. I just saw Nash. Go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry. What was that?
What time or what days in November?
I think it's the first full weekend of November, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Also, NashCon announced their hotel block. I think it opens this weekend. That's in August. And then Dragonfall is in October. We sponsored last year. Unfortunately, due to some work commitments, we weren't able to make it up there. But yeah, a lot of interesting stuff. So we'll see.
Phalanx Con is November 7th to the 9th.
Okay.
So, all right.
No, we were talking before about Holy Wars.
Yeah.
And that's November 1st and 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
I believe. Ish.
Sure. Oh, hold on. Let me look it up.
And while that's going on, also at Adepticon, they're doing something new this year.
Yeah.
The Army Showcase invitation. It looks like a display board.
That's what they did last year.
Oh, okay.
They previewed it last year. Yeah, that's when we ran into all the YouTubers grading it.
Oh, okay.
It's also when the road guy was handing out Malort shots.
Yep. All right.
Yeah. All right. Jim,
have we talked recently or talked at all about Mark H. Walker's The Long Road? Has anyone heard of that? It's another modern World War III type game. It's Hex Encounter, World War III and the 1980s. The classic, Soviets and East Bloc allies are going into NATO and FRG and Fold the Gap and all that stuff. 5th and 7th Corps, British Army of the Rhine, West German 3rd Corps. Except because it seems to be the trend lately, they threw in a paranormal twist.
Well, of course.
So there's a little bit of that in there. Lycans, vampires, I'm reading, and other stuff, or it can be ignored. And they've come out with some of the scenario books. So a friend of the club has tried it out. He's posted some pictures of some of his first games. It looks okay. I haven't tried it yet myself, but it is another modern or modern-ish system that is out there.
Interesting.
So like Silver Bayonet did the same thing with
Yeah.
Napoleonic Wars. Everyone's been doing it with World War II.
Not a fan. There are some things that I don't know. Dust, 1947 Dust was as far as to the weird stuff I wanted to get historically. The whole idea of Silver Bayonet, which is Napoleonic era, and you have zombies and vampires and whatnot. I'm sorry, they're
I don't know. Vampires in the Napoleonic era? I think it checks out. I'm just
No.
saying.
just leave it alone.
Just
An
saying.
interview with a vampire.
Just
Was
leave it alone.
French.
Just leave it alone. Not everything has to have freaking vampires or zombies.
Well, I mean, as long as they're not Twilight vampires.
So,
Yeah, those
Anyway.
glittering.
I mean, I understand that there's a whole genre that loves the weird war stuff and all that silliness, but
What was the one in Vietnam? Black Sun?
yes,
Yes.
Yeah, Black Sun was a big one in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Same
Yeah.
general idea.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's your kit bag, great, go for it. Just not my thing. I don't know.
What if I like
it's-
chupacabras?
It just whatever.
Are those
It
at
is what
Taco
it is.
Bell?
I don't mind it so much in a '83 World War III setting because that war never happened anyway. So
Right,
you're already in
right.
alternate history fiction. But when it comes into Vietnam, World War II, Napoleonics, then it gets a little like this actually happened. Why are you messing with it?
Yeah.
We kind of know what happened, and yeah.
Yeah.
No, I can understand that perspective for sure.
And I could see somebody saying, "Well, you're just a stuffed shirt historical war gamer,"
And
which I
be
say, "Fuck
goddamn
off."
proud of it.
But there's a reason why I play fantasy games or Carnivale or there's a reason. Let my historicals be historical. Let my fantasy be fantasy. Let sci-fi be sci-fi. I don't need you to mash up genres. I'm kind of a purist in some aspects of wargaming. But
Oh,
to their own.
There's a case to be made for that. We have different genres for a reason.
Yeah.
I mean, Dust is the game that dragged me into tabletop wargaming at all.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a case to be made that it serves a useful purpose even for purely historical stuff.
Yeah.
Because you can lure, it's a gateway game that you can lure somebody in with. That being said, I got 3 shelves worth of stuff right there.
Yeah.
I really have not pushed around the table in 4 years, 3 years.
I don't know anybody that plays Dust. I mean, we don't have any of our Dust stuff anymore, so.
Yeah, that's what I have on my shelves.
Oh, is that all ours?
Mhm.
Okay.
I have half of yours. Yeah. I have
I
all the
have the other
element
half.
stuff. And, yeah,
The
he's got all
only
the commie
people
half.
I have ever met that have played Dust are sitting in this room and on this chat together. Y'all are the only ones I know have ever played it.
It's a great game. I will
should
not
get
take
together and do
anything
it.
away. It is a great game. It's fun.
Didn't they have a bunch of legal problems and like the guy who originally created it kind of got out of it a
Paolo,
while ago? So yeah.
Paulo Ferrante. That was way back
Kickstarter
when.
1 and the
Yeah. But
there's some drama.
right before they closed out, they were fine. It's just I could tell you the whole backstory because we're real good friends with the people that ran Dust USA, and Don and I were actually invited to go to the factory in China to see how stuff was made and meet the actual owner of Dust. And it just never happened because of COVID and everything. But just unrealistic goals and that were set for sales and things like that. So they just kind of got out of it. But it's a shame. It's a great game, and I know a few people have tried here and there to try and bring it back. But I don't know. Maybe at some point in the future, it deserves another life. I'll be honest with you.
So
It
the
really does.
community has kept it alive.
Yeah.
There is a small but staunch group of supporters here in the Chicagoland area that continue to play.
Yeah. And the
So, I
models
mean,
are good. They're not
awesome.
not bad. They're not
Most
poor
of them, yeah.
molds. They are very good models.
For the
And the
most
nice
part,
thing about
especially
them,
the later ones.
yeah, the
Really?
nice thing about
I
us
thought
is,
the earlier ones were better.
well, it depends.
The
but
plastic on the earlier ones was funky.
yeah. So the nice thing about Dust is they were already assembled. You didn't have to assemble them. They were already primed,
Yep.
technically speaking. So you could put them on the table. So
I mean, so depending on what you got, you could get them unprimed, primed, or premium, where they are 100% painted. And I've got
they're
some
good.
premium stuff, and it's not bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Better than I
anyway.
can paint.
Yeah, so I mean, that was a game I understand. There's just something about zombies and Napoleonics I just don't get.
Well, I guess
Zombies in general. I mean, who's not tired of them?
Yeah.
Well, I could see like room for World War II in Vietnam because, well, the Germans were doing all their fancy mumbo jumbo science that they were doing all in Europe with eugenics and all the craziness. And in Vietnam, we were testing a lot of chemical weapons, and there's like
Yeah, I mean, I
room
can
to
see a
hold the
premise for it,
fantasy, but I get what you're saying.
yeah. I mean, I look at it from a purely historical standpoint. So
I mean, to Jesse's point, the CIA was testing it on us.
yeah.
The other thing about some of that stuff is, if you've got a game and it's got, 15 different modules that have come out over the years and it's got a big showing, if one of those happens to be some weird war or some weird stuff, hey, so be it. If you don't like it, don't buy the module.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
It's like I
that's
said, I would
what's
never
going
stop
on
anybody
with
from
this.
buying.
That's what's going on with this. The name escapes me now. The Long Road. If you want, the supernatural element can be completely disregarded if that's what you're into.
Yeah.
Is what I've read
There you
about
go.
it.
You got the option then. I mean, that's
Yeah,
nice that you
like
can
I
just
said, to each their
carve it
own.
out.
To me, I would not play Silver Bayonet, but I would not make fun of anybody who does or trash talk them. I mean,
No, I mean, like they say, almost every historical war gamer used to be a sci-fi or pulp horror weird or fantasy player at one point.
right?
And almost all the fantasy ones are based off of history.
Oh yeah, fantasy is ancient medieval with better special effects. I mean, it's
Truth.
And who wouldn't like to play like something like Predator, the original?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm more of
Good
an
game.
alien guy.
Yeah,
we
we did
had
Aliens
Predator
and Sit Rep
versus Aliens.
Skirmish. That was a
Ah.
friggin'
Yeah.
blast. That was a
Yeah,
4-hour game, and we felt like we just turned the stream on. We're like, it's been 4 hours already. That was a lot of fun.
Honestly, the best ever game put on by Jim that was
Here we go.
participation was Miami
We
Vice.
know we know what it's going to be. Did the audience hear you? I don't know. Did that come through?
Miami Vice. Big
There you
Booty
go.
Trudy. I still have yet to meet Big Booty Trudy.
Here we go.
I am gonna get all over my friend. So I think I've told you all this in the last few months, but down in the Keys where we live, one of my coworkers from the Hyperbaric Chamber actually met the actress who plays Trudy in Miami Vice. She lives down there now in her neighborhood, and so she sent me pictures saying, "Hey, guess who I'm with?" And I'm like, "That's Big Booty Trudy." And last time we were down there, we were all going out to dinner, and she goes, "Yeah, Trudy's coming out." That's not her real name, but I'm like, yeah. She never showed. Hurt my feelings.
Maybe she's trying to tell you something.
But then then Kathy shows me pictures that she had sent her of their Miami Vice reunion in Miami, just like the week or so before. How dare they? Anyway, all right.
How's Elvis? Is it Elvis?
The alligator?
The alligator?
Yeah.
Elvis the
Search for
Gator. Jen
Endeavor.
asked me why I didn't make a piece for Elvis the Gator. I'm like, he would wreck the game. He would be like a 400 hit dice.
I was gonna say he's OP.
He would totally destroy the whole system. Other than that, yes,
it
I would
was a
totally
great
put him.
game. I would love to do another one. And I tell you what, I think I've said this to you before, Jim, but we had the houses from like Stiltsville there.
Oh, yeah.
You had those two. I actually, when I sailed my boat from the Bahamas to the Keys, went through Stiltsville, and it was the greatest moment of my entire life.
There's still a few of them left.
Yes, because I'm sailing through
Don't worry
it.
about your marriage, Don. Stiltsville was the highlight.
We're fine.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking.
Hey, Jesse, you being born,
Yeah.
first kid in out. Yeah, don't worry about that.
Hold on a minute. I'm talking in the moment of movie magic.
Turned out I sailed a boat by some sticks
Here
in the
I
water.
am. I am sailing my boat through Stiltsville, going to the Intercoastal Waterway, and I see flashes of Don Johnson, Philip Michael Thomas, Miami Vice. I see flashes of the Bad Boys, right?
Because
they were in Stiltsville. And then I see flashes of our game in Stiltsville. I lived Stiltsville. I lived it.
Was that too much sun, Bill? Were you in the sun too long?
Well, it probably would have been less sun.
It's the fumes from the generator.
I probably would have had less sun exposure if my first mate had actually shown up to help me bring the boat back from the Bahamas.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh.
Smackdown.
But
we still got all the assets for it. The hard
That's
part of that's done. I still have all the assets for it.
So Jim, I just had a thought, because Elvis would be OP, 100%.
Yes, totally.
Don't make him an NPC. Just don't make him a live character.
A random event. He just shows up once a turn and eats somebody. He eats a random character.
Or he's just there for visual appeal. He's just there vibing. But he's not an actual character, because he'll destroy everybody. Let's be real.
And I tell you what, Jen added so much to that game, playing Big Booty Trudy and all that, and talking about Castillo don't play that way or whatever the line was she said.
Castillo don't play.
Yeah, so it was a great game. I had so much fun. All right, we're gonna transition to another island, but this one's in the Pacific. There is a small, and it really isn't that big of an island, Jim. If I remember correctly, is for what happened on it and the amount of people and assets they had on that island, and everybody knows it, right? In some aspect, because the U.S. Marine Corps Memorial in D.C. is the flag raising of Iwo Jima. And if you're a John Wayne fan, one of his best movies ever was
Sands of Iwo Jima.
You forgot a John Wayne movie?
Yeah, I did.
Sands of Iwo Jima.
Thank you, Jesse.
Jim Assistance number 4, Sands of Iwo Jima.
Thank you.
There you go.
The Fighting Seabees.
Not the Fighting Seabees. But and it's one of the few movies that he actually dies in, and I think it was the first time I ever seen him die in a movie, and it really tore me up. John Wayne doesn't die. Actually, what really got me was The Shootist. I cannot watch that movie to this day. Not to get off track, but
that's a great movie.
I love the movie. I just can't watch because that was it. He was dying in real life,
I was gonna say, but he ties his real life terminal condition into the movie, and I mean, I think it resolves a lot of stuff. It teaches a lot of lessons.
It does. It does.
Oh, and he shoots a lot of dudes.
Yes, and it's just hard. But all right, let's get back to Iwo Jima. So, Jim, do you want us to give us like a synopsis of how Iwo Jima came to be?
Well, I mean, we talked about it in last week's. People just want to hear me run the mouth about it. We talked about it in last week's Panzer Leader game.
Yeah.
Iwo Jima was invaded. The opening day of the invasion was 19 February 1945, Operation Detachment. It's actually in the North Pacific. It's actually quite cold there. At least the air is. The island itself is literally hot. It's an active volcanic island. The last volcanic eruption there was in 2012. In fact, Iwo Jima doesn't really look like it does back when the battle took place, because the entire island is still uplifting. But as far as how the battle was taking place, there's sulfur literally steaming out of the ground. You've got this black volcanic ash. It's not like Omaha Beach where you're landing on sand. You're landing on this ash that you can't dig a hole in. Marines there described it as trying to dig a hole in coffee, or trying to dig a hole in a can of wheat. And it was like trying to run through coffee grounds. The entire island has that consistency, at least the southern part of the island. But the northern part of the island, you've got just this brutal, never-ending fight with Marines taking god-awful casualties and this honeycomb of tunnels and channels and canyons and ravines in this rocky, sort of a maze. If you ever wonder where 40K gets some of its ideas from, especially if you're talking about like Space Marines versus Tyranids, I mean, if you ever needed an analog, that shit happened in real life. It's an absolutely ridiculous battle. A lot of other fights and battles can be compared against it. They all lose. Bloodier than Omaha easily. For the same size invasion, 2 divisions ashore at Omaha, 2 divisions initially ashore on Iwo Jima. It's just a lot worse. I mean, some of the battles in the East were certainly bigger. Some of the battles, in the Soviet Union at the time were obviously going to be a lot bigger. But Iwo Jima is definitely kind of stands apart. I don't want to ramble on all the facts because I kind of went through a lot of this stuff in our content last week. But
Well, let me
suffice
ask you
it,
this, Jim, to kind of lead some of the conversation.
yeah.
Why Iwo Jima? What was the strategic importance of it for the Japanese, and what was the importance of it for the Americans at that point in time?
Well, for the Japanese, it's
And-
easier to go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry.
For the Japanese, it's easier to answer because for the Japanese, it's the first part of any of the islands that we went after that was considered part of Japan itself. Even today, you mentioned if you ever wanted to go to Iwo Jima, it's actually quite difficult to go there. It's part of the Tokyo prefecture. It's like the equivalent would be like, if one of our islands in the Virgin Islands was technically part of Washington D.C. for some weird reason. I mean, it's part of Tokyo, so they defended that place like it was literally holy soil. And for the Americans, it's a little more. There's a little bit more of a debate. There are revisionists and other historians or historical-minded people who like to kind of go back and second guess, was it really worth going after? I think it's definitely worth going after. I'm not sure if it's worth the price we paid. And there's a case to be made if it had been invaded on schedule instead of being delayed for some other stuff. If it had been invaded on schedule when there was 6,000 Japanese there instead of 22,000 Japanese there, we wouldn't have paid nearly what we wound up paying for it. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of reasons that people will list as to why it was important to take. A lot of those don't hold up under scrutiny, I'm sorry to say. The one you'll hear the most often is, if you look at a map of the North Pacific, it's exactly halfway between where our big bombers were. The B-29s were based all on the Marianas Islands, mostly Tinian. And that's exactly like 1,500 miles away from, most of the Japanese home islands.
Yeah.
And like 750 miles, it's almost exactly halfway, is Iwo Jima. And some B-29s would take, a little bit of damage over, they have a mechanical problem or a fuel problem or a weather problem. And they wanted Iwo Jima as a place to land. And they'll cite how many B-29s landed on Iwo Jima, and they'll multiply that by the number of crew in a B-29, and they'll say Iwo Jima saved that many number of lives, kind of missing the fact that over 80% of those landings were training flights. Yeah. So the whole idea that we can base fighters on Iwo Jima, they can help escort the B-29s in, that happened exactly 8 times. Out of like God knows how many sorties we flew in the course of 150 days remaining in World War II. So that doesn't really hold water. The whole point of the B-29 was that it was supposed to fly high enough to where it could bomb Japan with impunity. I mean, it was the first combat aircraft, I think the first aircraft period to have a pressurized cabin and cockpit. It could just literally fly higher than anything that Japanese could throw up at it. This is something that would stand for the B-29 until the Korean War, when the Russians came out with the MiG-15. All of a sudden, the enemy can reach you, so watch out.
Wow.
So yeah, there's a bunch of reasons there. They say, oh, we needed to punch a hole in the Japanese air defense system. Japanese didn't have an air defense system, or that Japanese fighters could rise off of Iwo Jima and intercept B-29s going in toward Japan. They couldn't reach the B-29s again.
No.
So there's, I mean, what should it have been taken? Absolutely. Was it really worth the price we wound up paying for it? That's a little more up for debate. I won't really come down on one side or the other on that, because it's an ongoing debate that people continually like to argue about. But
So-
a lot of that's also hindsight. Like when they
Yeah,
gave
yeah,
the
of
order
course.
to go in, they didn't know it was going to cost
Yeah.
6,821 dead or killed in action or died of wounds, and almost 20,000 wounded. It's the only battle in the Pacific War where American casualties technically ticked past Japanese casualties. Of course, all the Japanese casualties are killed, 21,000 plus. I think 1,100 of them survived to surrender. But I mean,
And that wasn't their fault, because the majority of them were wounded and were scooped up by U.S. guys before they could continue to either fight or commit suicide.
for a fair amount of them, that's definitely true. Although by the time you get to Iwo Jima, certain it's still way the minority, but Japanese are starting to give up, because even they're starting to see this is friggin' hopeless. And as much as American historians like to talk about how horrible it was for the Americans, the Marines and the Navy corpsmen on Iwo Jima, it was horrible for the Japanese as well. Some of those caves would get up to 140 degrees, because again, the island itself is trying to cook you.
Yeah.
And the Japanese position is almost entirely underground in these caves in an active volcanic island.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive, because you think of a cave being cooler, not realizing this cave that is, as you
An
said,
oven.
is literally in a volcano, an
So-
active, real live volcano.
Yeah,
There's
there's
not lava.
literally sulfur steaming out of the walls.
Yeah.
Like there's yellow
Iwo Jima
smoke
means
everywhere.
Sulfur Island.
Totally, exactly. Yeah.
So, Jim, could they have theoretically, instead of invading the island, just cut it off and almost did like a siege and just bypassed it and just starved it? Or strategically, would that have been
honestly.
an...
I mean, could they have just bypassed it? Because I mean, half of they called it island hopping for a reason. We talked about this in our Pacific War Op Center series. The whole point of island hopping in the Pacific isn't about what you attack. It's about the 19 islands. Out of every 20 islands, it's about the 19 you don't attack. All the biggest, heaviest Japanese positions were bypassed. Rabaul in the South Pacific, Truk in the Caroline Islands in the Central Pacific. These places were like World War II equivalent of the friggin' Death Star. I mean, Americans were afraid to fly within 100 miles of this place, especially Rabaul. Truk, not so much, because by then we'd taken down Rabaul. Could we have bypassed Iwo Jima? I don't know. I mean, as the war turned out, atomic bomb, we never had to invade Japan. Obviously, again, all 2020 hindsight, probably could have bypassed Iwo Jima, but nobody had any clue.
Yeah, they
Number
were
one,
working with that information at the time that the campaign was
they
going.
didn't know the atomic bomb was a thing, because that was very well kept secret, and even those that knew had no idea if it was going to work in time. We were gearing up. Operation Downfall was broken into two phases. Operation Coronet at Kyushu was scheduled for November 1st or October 31st, 1945, and Operation Olympic, Invasion of the Tokyo Plain, for March 31st, 1946. So we're already gearing up for a war that's going to last into 1947, 48. Because, I mean, the invasion of the Japanese home islands was just going to be an absolute.
So what I just heard is, Bill, you now have the opportunity for an alternate World War II history. Play that game.
Well, here's a little connection to us. My grandfather, my dad's dad, was on a ship on his way to the Japanese islands for the invasion of Japan when they dropped the bomb. And he was in the army, and they were getting ready to invade Japan. And they pretty much told him that the casualties were going to be astronomical if they landed and had to fight. The Japanese people would have fought to the death, and it would have taken a lot of Americans. So
that's just one of those campaigns.
Considers himself very lucky that the atomic bomb was used.
Yeah, my grandfather as well. My father's father was a PFC in the Army as a medic, and Japanese were trained to shoot medics first.
Yeah.
So the odds of him coming back, I mean, you could say that our whole family line is
Yeah,
here because of the
it
atomic
would
bomb.
ended with him, because
Yeah.
at that point my aunt wasn't born yet. My dad wasn't born. My dad was born in 48, so that would have ended that. So, but yeah, he tells me a lot when he was alive. Told me a lot of stories about his time in the Pacific and all that. And he says he very vividly remembers being on the ship and they making the announcement over on the overhead, PA system or whatever that's on the ship, telling them that they had just dropped the bombs, you know, on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and pretty much they weren't going to invade at the time. They were in a holding pattern and see what Japan did, and Japan surrendered very shortly thereafter. So,
Can you imagine being the guy on the boat and you're like, we dropped 2 bombs and they're gonna give up?
yeah,
Because
nobody knew
obviously
what
they
an
don't know
atomic
what.
bomb was.
Yeah, so nobody, this is brand new stuff. Nobody knows what it is. And like, 2 bombs on 2 different cities, and you think they're gonna give up?
Yeah.
And this is in the midst of things like Operation Meeting House, when Hiroshima killed 80,000 on day one. Nagasaki killed about 40,000, despite being a bomb twice as powerful. We were killing 100,000 a day in Tokyo, with the firebombing. And it just took 300 or 400 bombers instead of one. Light a fire big enough in the middle of these completely wooden cities at the time.
Wooden and paper structures, yeah.
And you're going to create hurricane force winds strong enough to pull people out of buildings and roll up railroad lines, like literally tear the railroads out of the ground. And some of the stuff we were doing to Japan was on a next level. People talk about Dresden, people talk about some of the stuff we did in Germany.
Yeah.
There was nothing close.
No.
But I
hear.
think that a lot of let's say your average American, we'll compare it to kind of my peers around me. They don't know that we firebombed anybody. They have no idea that was a tactic that was used. They don't know what happened in Dresden. They don't know what we did to Tokyo.
Tokyo, Osaka, Yokohama. It was.
Dropped the bomb on us. You know what? Your bomb was just fast. It wasn't more effective or more deadly than anything else.
Yeah.
We were already murdering them at a massive rate.
Yeah. And part of that was, the culture of the time. And let's be honest, war's ugly. No matter at what scale, or whether it's one-on-one, platoon on platoon, company, you go all the way up to armies, populations, cities, nations. War is ugly.
I would argue it's ugly at any scale.
And the one thing I remember from I can remember my drill sergeant Smith. His name was Smith, believe it or not. Reminds me this day. He goes, "There's no such thing as fair in war. You come with a bigger stick and you go and you kill them. Period."
Canada proved that in World War I.
Yeah.
Then we got the Geneva Convention.
Yeah.
Then we had World War II to see if those rules worked.
Right. So
the American approach, both from like the government perspective, the political perspective, the military doctrine, all the way down to the individual troops and even the people back home. I mean, between the Germans and the Italians in Europe and the Japanese was horrifically different. I mean, Germany never attacked us. Outside of, I think they accidentally torpedoed one destroyer that didn't even sink or something like that. And we were basically asking for it. We were deliberately putting our destroyers out in front of British convoys. Churchill was going to bed.
They hit a Lend-Lease escort, didn't they?
Yeah, and Roosevelt was like going to bed every night, like praying that one of our ships would get hit by a German torpedo because he desperately wanted in that war.
He was all about remember the Maine. Let's do this again.
He was all about, look, I'd rather let's fight Hitler when we have allies, the British and especially the Soviets, believe it or not, when we have the chance, as opposed to, and then here comes Japan, and Japan, wipes out, most of our Navy in one Sunday afternoon, kills almost 3,000 people, attacks an American, Hawaii wasn't a state then, but,
the Philippines.
Thus violating the first rule of warfare. Don't touch America's boats.
Don't touch their boats. That's a big part of where that comes from. Yeah, don't touch their boats.
Touch the boat.
But in all seriousness, quick anecdote that might make this point. Okay, at the end of the war now, at least at the end of the war in Europe, they're starting to put some of these Germans up on war crimes trials in Nuremberg. And one of the guys in the docks is Grand Admiral Karl Dönitz. This is the guy who was running the German U-boat fleet. And the British and especially the Soviets want to hang him. Well, the Soviets wanted to hang everybody. But the British wanted to hang him as well because of how he, crimes against humanity, unrestricted submarine warfare, all these merchant marines and all these civilians on some of these, requisition ships that he, sunk in the Atlantic. And he was going down as a sentence of death until the tribunal got a letter from Fleet Admiral Chester Nimitz, SINCPAC of the Pacific, Commander-in-Chief of the Pacific. He says, hey, you better not hang this guy, because if you hang him, you're going to have to hang me, because as a submariner by trade, what Germany tried to do to Great Britain in the Atlantic is exactly what we did to the Japanese successfully about 5 times over in the Pacific. By the end of the war, submarines were coming back with full torpedo loads because we've sunk so many of their ships and we've killed so many of their merchant marine. They literally can't put anything to sea that is worth a torpedo. The only thing the Japanese are still working with are wooden junks, something that you might see in Blood and Plunder. I'm not kidding about this.
Right.
And they would surface next to it and sink it with a 5-inch deck gun because it's literally not worth a torpedo. The torpedo costs more than the friggin' boat.
Yeah.
That's the degree to which the Japanese merchant marine was just completely destroyed during the Pacific. During the Solomons campaign, Japanese troop ships standing orders were to, if it was safe, if there was no Japanese air cover, and if there was no Japanese destroyers present, surface and machine gun all survivors in the water. Everyone knows about the internment camps we had in California. We had borderline concentration camps set up and down, all up and down in California. When it came to the Japanese, nobody was pulling any punches. And getting back to Operation Operation Olympic, the initial invasion, there's a sub operation in there. It begins with a G. I read about it once. I haven't been able to find another reference for it then. Full-scale chemical warfare. We were going to World War I mustard gas those invasion beaches ahead of time because they were packed full of battalions of grandmothers with bamboo spears getting ready to fight U.S. Marines with flamethrowers. And they're like, we're not putting up with that. We're just going to gas them all. The Germans, Nazi Germany, never used chemical weapons in World War II, and we were ready to. We had it all stockpiled and we were ready to go.
The Jews might argue that.
That's not
in warfare.
That's not even close to what we're talking about.
That's a different animal.
So Jim, let me ask you this: for somebody who wants, you do excellent examples of gameplay in your videos. If you were to make a recommendation, so say I came to you and say, "Hey, I really want to play Iwo Jima in Flames of War 15 millimeter. Can you tell me the best way to play it?" Obviously, they're not going to be able to play, because you're not going to build a huge island. You won't have a table big enough for it. What would be your recommendation if I wanted to do it in like Flames of War 15 millimeter scale?
Just research the engagement that you're interested in recreating, and use that. We've got Flames of War would definitely work. Flames of War would work mechanically. It's just there's not a lot of tanks, and a lot of people like to play Flames of War for the tanks. There's not a lot of.
Yeah.
There are two Marine tank battalions on the island. They don't really have any Japanese tanks to shoot at. There are some Japanese tanks on the island, but they're all dug in as pillboxes, so it might not be terribly fun. I would almost say bolt action. Go even smaller. Go bolt action because it's an infantry battle at that point. Okay. So any kind of game that focuses heavily on infantry is going to be what you're looking for.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, and to your point, Jim, I think so many of the engagements, even though there's many engagements along a line, if you will, but many of the individual engagements, it's like this squad or platoon is going to take that fighting position, that cave, this series of pillbox, whatever. But there were there were a bunch of small ones all strung together. So
Oh,
you
certainly.
could do it at that scale. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I wouldn't try to do like the amphitheater or Hill 832 or Cushman's Pocket or anything like that in that small of a scale. Like,
Yes.
that might work in Panzer Leader or something like that, or Valor and Victory. But yeah, just keep it small enough to where you can focus on infantry tactics, because especially near the end of the battle, that's pretty much all you've got. There are some tanks on the American side, especially the M4A3R3, the flame-throwing Sherman. This is not the flame-throwing Sherman from Europe, where you had the bow machine gun replaced with basically the man-pack flamethrower that could shoot out like maybe 20 yards. You had the much larger tank-sized flamethrower that's right next coaxial to the main gun.
This is the good one.
Yeah, that thing shoots a lot of flame, and it shoots at like 100 meters. And that was the only American unit up to and including 8 battleships of 16-inch and 14-inch caliber guns.
Yeah.
So, 2,500-pound shells. They would not make the Japanese run out of their positions. Those Sherman flamethrowers, they saw them coming. That was the only thing that could make the Japanese run.
I mean, I would run or surrender. Not gonna lie.
I mean, it's one thing to get destroyed or killed, and nobody wants to be burned alive.
No.
Right. That's something else.
So Jim put together a really great fact sheet. I will include it in the description of this show for everybody that would like some reference points.
Now I wish I edited it better.
So we'll put that in there.
Where it's like, don't be stupid when you say this. Make sure Bill understands. Marty and Chris don't know what the fuck they're talking about, so use little words.
No, but you're talking to answer your previous question. One more point:
Yeah.
Could we have left it? Could we have just besieged it, and maybe they would have given up eventually? When the Marines were done there, the U.S. Army's 147th Regiment took over, so the U.S. Army was involved in this battle as well. It's not completely a Marine battle. 147th U.S. Infantry, that's actually a National Guard regiment out of Ohio. They took over and found out that the Marines had left about 1,000, maybe 1,200 Japanese still in caves, bunkers, and tunnels. And they spent another 4 months digging them out of there. So the Battle of Iwo Jima technically doesn't end until practically the end of the war.
Wow.
And even then, the last holdouts don't surrender until January 1949. I think it's 2 or 4 Japanese don't give up until 1949. They held out in there until 1949.
Yeah, there is a really great movie from, I want to say it's from the 70s, early 80s, 70s, about one of the last Japanese soldier holdouts. I'll see if I can remember it, but yeah, it just popped in my head.
Well, yeah, you got guys on some of these other Japanese islands, and they're literally they got left behind. They're on one of these islands that got bypassed, and then along comes September 2nd, the surrender goes out, the official surrender, and it's like, okay, we all get back in the boat and go home. Well, one guy missed the boat, or one guy said, no, I'm not going, and he's basically just sitting there eating coconuts until a tourist runs across him in like 1970 or something like that.
Yeah.
There are a few of those guys. These two, I think it's 2 or 4. This handful of guys on Iwo Jima were actively stealing food, because how else are you going to live 4 years?
Right.
They're actively stealing food from American. There's an American Air Force base on there, I think.
Air Force.
Or I think it might not have been, or U.S. Army Air Force.
Yeah.
Or by then, it was
Army Air
what
Corps.
Yeah.
Well, 47, it would have.
Right. It goes from U.S. Army Air Corps to U.S. Army Air Force halfway through World War II, and then I think in 47 it goes to the Air Force.
Yeah.
Yep. Cool.
Either way you slice it, let's face it, the zoomies over there. Yeah, what do they care about? Yeah, some food.
They turned the sulfur into hot tubs, and they had their massages and their hot tubs.
If it was
at the club,
if it was Army food, the Air Force guys were gonna eat it anyway.
Right. And this is on an island with no natural sources of water, so these guys are drinking rainwater, and that's all they've got. Other than that, every drop of water had to be shipped in from an island called Chichi-jima. That's 150 miles away. So yeah, it's a hell of a place to fight a battle. And as far as visiting there nowadays, you got to have special permission from the Japanese government. When you arrive there, you have to wear not like a suit and tie, but you have to wear like a sport jacket. You can't go there dressed like a bum, because
you're not going there looking like an American tourist.
Yeah, you're not going there like it's Walmart or Las Vegas, because guess what? You're walking on entombed graves of
a war
thousands. Unknown thousands of Japanese are still buried there. The Marines would just blow the cave, or throw a rocket in the cave or a flamethrower in the cave. The cave would collapse, and they just leave them there, and nobody can get them out of there. No one's ever positively identified General Kurabayashi's body, the commander there. No one knows where he finally wound up.
So we've got to be all respectful and stuff when we're there.
Yeah.
That kind of bothers me, considering how I've seen the Japanese act on the Arizona Memorial.
Well, I can't really speak to that. I mean, I would agree.
Yeah.
I would definitely agree. But the Japanese government does take it pretty seriously. I mean, you're right, because there's over 1,000 of our people still down in that hole.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And you would see them, you'd go to the Arizona because family's in town and they want to see it, rightfully so. And then you see the Japanese, first off, the Japanese kids are running around it like it's a playground. And then you've got the adults that are climbing over the satin rope to get their picture taken up by the wall with all the names on it.
Oh, that's a little tasteless. Yeah.
I mean, I did not have that experience, and I'm pretty sure if you climbed a rope line, you were going to get bayoneted and have to be fished out of the water.
I was there a couple of times, and they were completely unruly.
I would almost hold that more against the Americans than the Japanese. If the Japanese are going to take care to enforce a certain standard of conduct at their site, then damn it, the Americans who are in charge of the Arizona now, the Americans should have a security guard there. Right.
Well, they did. The people would climb over the rope to get their picture, and they'd get maybe a foot or two up there, and you got the park rangers would come and chase them out.
I was gonna say, like I said, I was only there twice, but that wasn't my experience. There were some that kids will be kids, so I'm not gonna hold that against anyone. But I mean, other than that, my experience was that they were just like the rest of us. They wanted to come see the thing, take some pictures, hear the information that the rangers and the guides were providing, get back on the boat and go to the gift shop.
I was ready to start pitching them in the water.
I've never been to either site, so I can't speak to it personally or directly. I've been to a lot of battlefields. I just came back from Bastogne.
And the hospital.
Oh yeah, well, the Bastogne hospital, or the hospital in Bastogne, probably, yeah. But all I don't know. Maybe part of the difference is, because you're right, that isn't right. Part of the difference is Iwo Jima is a hell of a tough place to get to.
Yeah.
You have to fly to Honolulu, then you have to fly to Guam, and then you have a special dispensation from the Japanese government to fly to Iwo Jima, and even that's like a 12-hour flight. Because it's a Japanese naval base. I mean, just like Pearl Harbor is.
Yeah.
And it's so any American who goes there does so. It's not like you were saying, oh, I'm here in Honolulu. Anyway, let me take a side trip. We'll spend half a day down here.
Yeah, and, there's no Waikiki Beach at Iwo Jima.
No, and again, it's not a comfortable place to get to. The people I've talked to and the people I've listened to on other podcasts who have been to Iwo Jima, it's a rough visit because again, it's not a pleasant place. Well,
and any of us, we would all be respectful of the battlefield, regardless of the battlefield.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of the toughest places I walked through was Auschwitz.
That would be a heavy trip, that's for sure.
Yeah. And I was also at Schindler's factory, but Auschwitz itself was unreal.
Yeah. I don't know. I was very respectful walking around Tallil Air Base and the Temple of Ur, but that's because we found out that the entire area was landmined and an infantry platoon got stuck in it.
Where was
After that, I'll stay on the roads. I hear they're safe.
Right. Yeah.
As long as we own them.
Never get off the boat, man. Never get off the boat.
Never get off the
But yeah, we talked about it plenty on last
Yep.
week's episode. We're going to talk about it again this weekend for part 2 of the Iwo Jima show.
Yeah. Make sure you guys check it out.
Absolutely. So I got my Iwo Jima shirt on. This came from a great little
Lovely.
company called TJ Historical. So it's tjhistorical.com. They got a lot.
TJ or TR?
Oh, TR. What did I say? TJ. My bad. Thank you. Thank you for that. TR Historical. Here I am trying to give the guy some props and I get his name wrong. TR Historical. Lots of stuff there besides Iwo Jima stuff. So, yeah, glasses, cups, stuff like that, all, historical themed. So, little expensive.
Right.
I won't lie, a little expensive, but worth it. Especially since it arrived at just in time. I got here on the 18th of February, like 1 day to spare.
Oh, nailed it.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right, guys. Any final thoughts from anybody? Make sure you check out the whole Iwo Jima.
Iwo Jima.
Thank you.
Iwo Jima.
Iwo Jima series. And if you really want some great background, look up Op Center. Jim does some really good Op Centers. Gives some really good background on island hopping and Pacific warfare. And let us know what you think. And Marty, any
part
final
1 of that
thoughts?
series literally became by accident for the 75th anniversary of Iwo Jima.
Yeah.
I was going to be a one-off and done, and then I'm like, well, since I've already started it, I'll do the other 3, and that's when we get into surface battles and how you can wargame surface battles in the Pacific. There's a lot more surface battles than people tend to think in the Pacific. Everyone thinks about submarines and especially aircraft carriers.
Yep.
A lot of surface action in the Pacific as long as you stay at night. So surface action is part 14. Part 15 is island is carrier operations, and then part 16 is island hopping.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, I've got 2 questions for Jim.
Mm-hmm.
One, what would be for someone new who wants to read up on it, high level? I know you can probably name every person on the island. The rest of us don't want that detail. From a high level, what would be a good book to read?
Ooh, that's a good question, because the high level book that got me into Iwo Jima was like 20 years ago, and I've totally forgot the name of it now. I'd have to look that up.
Okay.
But
and sorry for putting you on the spot.
No, that's okay. I mean, a lot of the books I have now, like, assume that you already know a lot of, they get right down into the nitty gritty. So, there are going to be 2 Osprey books on Iwo Jima. We can start there.
That's always good.
You can never go wrong there.
All right, and then the second question, movie. What is your preferred movie?
Oh, there's 2 of them. There's the only 2 World War II movies on Iwo Jima in my book, and that's of course Flags of Our Fathers, which isn't perfect. It does get a few small details wrong, but you know what? It's all movies are going to get something wrong.
Right.
And it's definitely one of the good ones. And then Letters from Iwo Jima. So for Flags of Our Fathers, it was a Clint Eastwood. I mean, Clint Eastwood made the movie. He's not in the movie, but he made those 2 movies. Flags of Our Fathers is from the American perspective. Focuses on the guys from E Company, 2nd Battalion, 28th Marines, who raised those 2 flags on Mount Suribachi. Yes, there were 2 of them. And it goes into the whole story of how there were 2 of them and why, and so on and so forth. Gets the names wrong, but that's completely historically accurate, because in real life they got the names wrong. The guys that were actually
they're still arguing about some of that, aren't they?
I think they finally figured it out, but very recently, like 2020.
Yeah.
Like that recently, they finally nailed down once and for all who the 6 guys in the photograph are. They last I've read, they have landed on an answer, but you're right, it is very, very recently for a battle that took place 80 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, probably the easiest way for them to say we've definitely got it right now is nobody is alive to dispute it.
Well, people were disputing it at the time, and they just didn't listen. They just didn't care, because by then the Marine Corps knew they had made a mistake, and it was kind of too late. So they kind of
no, they didn't make a mistake. Hence, the dispute. We're not wrong. It's like anything else. We're from the government. We're here to help.
So then there's again, it's almost like the 2. In fact, the 2 movies share some of the same scenes. He just straight out uses some of the same footage in both movies. Is Letters from Iwo Jima, and that shows everything from the Japanese perspective.
Yeah, they're really good movies. They really are.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, guys. Don, any last thoughts? Jesse?
No, I'm all good here.
All right. Guys, remember, the Jim's second video in the series will go out tomorrow. This will air on Saturday, and that will air on Sunday. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out on our Facebook. More importantly, actually, if you really want to reach out to us, hit us up on our Discord channel.
Right.
We get a lot of good activity goes on the Discord channel, and we do get messages on the Facebook page. I know a couple people have reached out asking for Jim's maps or something on some of his previous games. And, if you go to the Discord, we have a file section, and there's some of the stuff there and some things. But that's where we are mostly active is Discord. And it's, new members, what's going on the hobby table, what's going on in gaming. There's some other realms things there for non-historical stuff. So we got a little bit of everything there. So check out our Discord channel and check out all that other
dropping a
stuff.
comment on our YouTube channel helps the YouTube channel. It drives the algorithm, but at the same time, you can't attach a file,
right?
And only one person is going to see your question. It's going to be me.
Yeah.
So, to Bill's point, if you put it on our Discord channel, there, files can go back and forth. A lot of people are asking for files, and a lot of people are, want to join in the conversation. So if you've got a really good question or something to add, like, hey, Jim, you were actually wrong about this. Like, spoiler alert, I got the Marine Artillery Regiments mixed up in the game. As far as 13th and 14th Marine Artillery Regiments, or with the 4th and 5th Division, I got them mixed up in the video. So yes, even once in a while, even a risking Jim makes a mistake.
Yeah, 13, 14, whatever it takes.
Yeah. So there's, if you got a comment, put it on the Discord. Other people are going to want to jump in, and that can't really happen on YouTube. So yeah, Discord's definitely the better place for that.
Yeah, maybe that's where you can put your edited copy of the fact sheet.
The info sheet, yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
So there you go. So guys, check it out. Please do like, subscribe, share this video as we journey throughout gaming, whether it's historical, some fantasy, some sci-fi. We do a little bit of everything. Our main emphasis is historical, but we are expanding because this person here doesn't historical. She doesn't historical. Okay, let me preference that by saying she's a wolf in sheep's clothing. I have played her in bolt action, and I have played her in Undaunted, right? The card game. She's beat me both times. So don't let her fool you.
Let's see some content.
Well, I was gonna say, Pixar didn't happen.
So we'll have to get some out. Well, we still have Battle of Britain Undaunted to do, don't we? And the North Africa. So we might have to throw those out on the table.
Here we go.
Yeah. So for those who like a little card game but historical based, it's pretty cool.
Set up a camera over the card table and stream it.
There we go. All right, guys, we're going to wrap up the show. We want to thank you for joining us on this pre-recorded in front of an artificial audience. And we thank you very much for your continued support. And we will see you in the next one. Take care.